In this day and age where being driven is commonplace and hustling is the norm, it's going to be extremely countercultural to move at the pace of grace that God has given you for a specific season. But sis, it is always going to be worth it. Hello everyone, welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name is Melody and I make faith-based content here on YouTube. I post new videos every single Monday. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely be sure and subscribe. I would love to have you join the family. So in today's video, we are going to be talking about the pace of God's grace and how we can move at this pace instead of getting ahead of God and trying to take control, or on the flip side, lagging behind and making no progress or movement whatsoever. I feel like it's really important that we dive into this topic and see what the Bible says about moving at God's pace, because I know we have all experienced the difference of moving in alignment with the Lord and experiencing that soul level peace and provision that can only come from Him, versus when we kind of just go rogue and start doing things in our own strength and in our own timing. And it's in this area where the enemy also can attack us. I was listening to a sermon by Bishop Dale C. Bronner, and he was talking about how the devil will bless us. Okay, he'll bless us, quote unquote, with things, whether it's the relationship, the new position, whatever it is, he has the ability to bless us with these things before we actually have the maturity, the knowledge, the wisdom, and the character to sustain it. And that's why moving at God's pace is so incredibly important, because as we do, we naturally will be able to just circumvent around this scheme of the enemy. Now, just to put this out there before we dive on into the how-to, that moving at the pace of grace simply means moving at God's pace. It's the difference between being led and driving. And in this day and age where being driven is commonplace and hustling is the norm, it's going to be extremely countercultural to move at the pace of grace that God has given you for a specific season. But sis, it is always going to be worth it. So to do this, to understand how to move at the pace of God's grace, we are going to be looking to 2 Samuel. And specifically, it's going to be 2 Samuel chapter 6, and we're going to be picking up in the story with David as he is now king. Okay, he went from a shepherd boy to hiding away from Saul, who was trying to kill him, who was the king of Israel at that time, to now finally, okay, 15 years later, assuming the throne of the nation of Israel. And in that, he has developed wisdom, he's developed knowledge, he's developed into the man that can handle the weight of that calling, but he still has lessons to learn. So as we unpack his story, we're going to be able to see how God corrects him in his missteps of moving at the pace that God has set for him, and some of the things he did right and some of the things that he did wrong. And in this, we're really going to be able to experience firsthand how to move at the pace of God's grace and what that looks like in our lives today. So I'm excited, sis. Make sure you have your Bibles, your pen, some paper. But before we dive into it, I want to go ahead and pause here and thank the sponsor of today's video, Hillsdale College. So this is your first time hearing me talk about Hillsdale. Sis, I don't know where you have been. I absolutely love Hillsdale. I am so excited to be partnered with them again on a video. Hillsdale College offers over 40 online free, okay, emphasis, boldness on the free part of this. And it's not just free with my link, it is not just free for a limited time. Sis, these courses are always free, and I love that. It's giving free resources, it's giving free Bible college. So their courses are on the topics that we want to know more about. So I've currently been going through their course on the book of Genesis. They also just released their course on the book of Exodus that I have been dabbling into. They have courses on C.S. Lewis on Christianity, ancient Christianity, the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, and so many more. On top of these courses being 100% free, they also are completely self-paced, meaning you can start wherever, whenever. So go to hillsdale.edu/melody to enroll. Again, that is hillsdale.edu/melody to enroll and start today. I definitely encourage you to do the book of Genesis and join me, sis, because we are going to be having an end of the semester, okay, an end of the semester party on April 5th. I'm gonna have a link down below for you not only to sign up with Hillsdale and get enrolled in this course, but also for you to register to join us at this party. It's going to be open to all of my online family, and I'm so excited. We're gonna be talking about what we learned as we went through, again, the course on the book of Genesis. We're gonna be doing Bible trivia, we're gonna have games. So sis, you do not wanna miss it. And the best part about this, just like all of your Hillsdale online courses, this party is completely free to attend. So I'm so excited. Again, it's going to be April 5th. Sign up down below. But first, to join the party, you must enroll and start taking that course through Hillsdale, the book of Genesis course. So check out the link below. So one more time, it is hillsdale.edu/melody. I cannot wait to see what the party says, but with all of that being said, let's go ahead and dive on into our topic today of how to move at the pace of God's grace. So let's dive into this text. It is 2 Samuel chapter 6, specifically verse 1 through 19. Now, to kind of catch you up on what we are jumping right into, David is now officially king. It has been a long time coming, and he is setting up Jerusalem as the capital city. Now, in that, he wants to move the ark, which is where the presence of the Lord dwells, from where it is located in Abinadab's house. He wants to move it into the city center. He wants life in that city to revolve around the Lord. So in that, he gathers his troops, 30,000 men. He goes to Abinadab's house and he gets the ark. So they place the ark on a cart, and Abinadab's sons Uzzah and Ahio, they lead this cart out of their father's house. Now they get to Nachon's threshing floor, which is kind of like a barn, we can think, where they're threshing out wheat. And in that, the ox that is pulling the cart, which is where the ark is on top of, he stumbles. The ox does. As the ox stumbles, the ark starts to stumble, and Uzzah instinctually, we can assume, reaches over to catch the ark from falling on the floor. And in doing so, the Lord strikes him dead on the spot. Okay? Right there on the spot for his irreverence for touching the ark. As David is realizing that Uzzah has been struck dead, he naturally, we can assume, feels confused, but it also states in the word that he is angry, and he decides to stop the parade in the procession, and everyone goes home. And so they now still have to figure out, where are we going to place this ark in the meantime? So David sends the ark to go to Obed-Edom's house. Now 3 months pass, and word gets to David that Obed-Edom's family has been blessed as the ark has dwelled in his home, and David is inspired once more to move that ark into the city. But this time, as they move the ark, they do things the Lord's way. So we can see in verse 13, it states that the ark is no longer being placed on a cart, it is being carried by men. Very important. After that, we also see that every 6 steps, sis, 6 steps, not only is an ox sacrifice, but a fattened calf. So they are walking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, sacrifice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, that just boggles my mind. And then from there, we also get to read that David is dancing with all of his might in a linen ephod. And this was priestly wear, not kingly wear. So he is humbling himself to truly get involved in this procession and celebration for the Lord in this second attempt. And this time, the ark makes it to the city. And as it does, David places the ark in a tent that he has set up specifically for the ark. And these verses end with basically breaking down that the people had a massive celebration. There were sweet treats. They were able to eat this meat that was sacrificed unto the Lord. Again, every 6 steps. And at the end of the celebration and procession for the movement of the ark into the city, everyone was dispersed and went home. All right, sis, so we have this text. We can see the difference between David's first attempt to move this ark and the second attempt, when he moved in alignment with God's pace as well as his instructions. So let's start to unpack kind of what we learned from this specific text and how this can apply to how we are able to walk in alignment and at the pace of God's grace. So number 1 on our list, the first step to moving at the pace of God's grace is to know and remember that obedience is the foundation of moving at God's pace. When we look at David's attempts, his first attempt, and compare it and contrast it to his second attempt, he did things completely different. His intentions in the first attempt were good, but good intentions do not negate disobedience. We need good intentions and obedient action. And that's the hard lesson that David had to learn here. So something that we need to know here is that God gave specific instructions, which were documented in both Deuteronomy and Leviticus, on how to move the ark. The Lord said that the ark was supposed to be moved on the shoulders of specific men from a specific family in the nation of Israel. So as David was having Uzzah, whose name means strength, and Ahio, whose name means friendliness, lead the cart out of their father's house, Abinadab's house, he's thinking he's doing this good thing. And in and of itself, his intention again is good. He's leading the way with strength and friendliness. And how often is that us thinking, oh man, to serve the Lord, I need to go out there and be strong. I need to go out there and be friendly. That something is going to be successful because I'm leading with those attributes. But God struck Uzzah dead for touching the ark because he was never supposed to be leading it to begin with. He was never supposed to be touching it to begin with. And so Uzzah and David and his brother Ahio, and let's be real, probably the father Abinadab as well, everyone erred in moving in what was right in their own mind. And again, this goes back to intentions. This goes back to being obedient. So as we are journeying with the Lord, wanting to move in alignment with his pace, as we are wanting also to experience the grace of moving in alignment at his pace, we have to remember to start with obedience. So number 2 on our list, the second thing we need to do to move at the pace of God's grace is to slow down. Since we live in a culture that is go, 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 hustle, hustle, hustle. And even back then for David, I'm sure as king, there was pressure to move in a specific way and to do so at a specific speed. And in doing that, again, let's compare and contrast that first attempt with the second attempt. David never went to the word and consulted and saw that in Deuteronomy and in Leviticus, the Lord gave specific instructions on who was to touch the ark, on how it was supposed to be moved. He just was excited. He wanted to go and get this ark and put it in the city. And in not slowing down, he was disobedient to the instructions that the Lord had already laid out on how to do this thing. And so we need to make sure that we are not moving at a pace that does not give us the time or space to go and consult the Lord. Hey God, how do you want me to do this thing? Hey Lord, I feel like you're calling me into this area, but how? In what timing and in what way do you want me to move? We need to invite a more unhurried pace into our lives. So that is going to be number 2. And last but not least, number 3 on our list today, the third thing that we need to remember when it comes to moving at the pace of God's grace is that it will entail trial and error. So just like David, a person in the Bible who is described as a man after God's own heart, as he made his missteps, we can know that we also are going to make our own missteps. And just like David was corrected by the Lord, granted, again, a price had to be paid for that disobedience and for that correction, and that for David was Uzzah's life. We also are going to experience God correcting us, and we also are going to experience at times the consequences of our missteps. But we have to remember that there is always the opportunity to go back to the drawing board and to do the thing the way that God has called us to do it. Just like David had that opportunity to say, okay, we are not moving this ark anymore. We're gonna place it at Obed-Edom's house, and I'm going to go back to the drawing board for 3 months. And the only reason that I can speak this specific truth wholeheartedly is because I have experienced this with the Lord specifically this year. I know my walk, there have definitely been times where I've experienced it again, but this one is fresh on my heart as something that God has been faithful to do in my life. So to paint a little picture for you, obviously you guys know that I create faith-based content here on YouTube. Now in that, the types of videos that I create, this takes a lot of prepping, this takes a lot of planning. And because I want to be faithful with this station that the Lord has given me here on the internet, I take it very serious, and I need time to not only be inspired with the topics, but also to study and prepare with the points and the Bible verses and all the things. So last year at the end of the year, I went on my first ever retreat with the Lord where I asked him, Lord, give me a game plan for my content here on YouTube. He gives me specific game plan. He gives me specific content buckets. And these content buckets allow me to have space and time between those videos where I'm doing a lot of deep diving and studying and researching, and videos where it's a little bit lighter. I'm able to speak more from experience. I'm able to go through the Bible with you, like my Bible study with me videos, and just do that in real time. And so the thing is, sis, I was disobedient, okay? I came into 2024 on fire. I was feeling so inspired. I was feeling so motivated. I was getting dropped gems from the Lord, so much inspiration. And I just immediately started coming. I started getting off the plan that God has set for me to do and how he wanted me to operate this year. And what do you know? I hit a brick wall creatively. I ended up not posting for 1 week, and I'm going to the Lord. God, I need some inspiration. Lord, what happened? And he got me together so lovingly, and he basically told me, Mel, go do the thing I told you to do in the way that I told you to do it. And so I opened up that Notion doc on my computer and I sat down and I reread how the Lord had instructed me to move online and with my content this year. And over this last month, I have seen him be so faithful to confirm what he has told me to do with how I'm feeling and the pace that I'm moving and the grace that I feel to move at this slower pace. And it's been a blessing because he could see things that I didn't know were coming up. So sis, just like we can see in David's life where God corrected him in his missteps, and just like you can see from my little testimony here that the Lord has corrected me, God will also lovingly correct you when necessary. And so I don't want us out here trying to pursue perfection. We don't want to get out of step with God. And while that heart posture and that desire comes from a good place, we also have to remember that we are but human. We need to rely on the Holy Spirit to move within us, to allow us to be humble enough to move at a pace that is slow enough to be obedient to God. And so inevitably, we also can expect that we're going to get out of step with him. And when that happens, trust that the Lord is going to gather you together with love and get you back on track. All right, sis, that is going to be it for me today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. And thank you once again to Hillsdale for sponsoring this video. Again, you can go to hillsdale.edu/melody to enroll and sign up. And then also there's going to be a link for you to register for our end of the semester Zoom party on April 5th. Now, as always, it is your turn. So in the comments below, I would love to know, how would you describe what it feels like to move at God's pace? I know I mentioned at the beginning of the video, for me, it feels like this soul level peace and this provision, but because we all are unique and we all have individual walks with the Lord, I think it's gonna be beautiful for us to read different descriptions of what the Lord allows us to experience as we are moving at his pace. So drop it down below for us. I'll be sure to leave mine, take a second, drop yours as well, and then scroll on through. As always, I love you guys and I will see you in my next video. Peace.